Hello, welcome back to another video. I thought that this week I could talk about my small business, how it started, and everything that comes with having a small business. Well, not everything, but a lot of things that come with having a small business, such as starting, getting things manufactured, doing artist alleys, and so on. So sit back, relax, and be prepared for a very long video. When I decided to finally be more serious about starting my small business, more focused on my art, I did not have a lot of money. I was pretty broke. Because I still wanted to give having a small business a try, I knew that I had to be smart with planning it. So the thing that was super important to think about was, what was my main product going to be? And did I want a second and third type of product? And if it was, what was it going to be? Eventually, I decided that stickers were going to be my main product. Next was going to be stationery, like letter paper. And the third thing was going to be prints. But how did I come to this conclusion? I believe that making stickers, especially at home, is one of the best ways to start off if you want to start selling your art on other stuff. And I knew that everything would have to be handmade, hand cut 100%. No matter how many people I watched that had sticker cutters and iPads and all these fancy gadgets, I knew that I wasn't there yet, and it was something that I would have to think about later on in the future. So my main focus was trying to find the best material for my main product. For some reason, I was married to the fact that I had to have matte vinyl stickers. But before I even knew that, I had to look up a bunch of sticker paper reviews, because back then I didn't even know what the difference was between standard sticker paper and vinyl sticker paper and all these other sticker papers that you could possibly choose from. There's so many. One of the things that really helped me back then was ordering sticker samples from online labels. Now I don't know if they're even doing that anymore, because during the pandemic, a lot of small businesses started popping up out of nowhere because people were staying at home more. So word got out on TikTok that online labels was doing that, and they eventually stopped providing the free sample service. I don't know if they ever went back to providing that service. You can check online labels out if you want to see if they did or not. Even then though, I still needed to find the perfect brand. I spent between 1 to 2 months just trying to figure out the perfect sticker paper. After I exhausted every single YouTube video that I could find and I still hadn't found what I wanted, I went straight to Amazon, started to read a bunch of reviews, and then eventually I decided to start using the Cricut matte sticker paper, which I loved. I love that matte sticker paper so much. I was very loyal to them for a long time. I still have their sticker paper back here somewhere, but I don't really use it anymore. When I make my journaling stickers, the smaller size sticker sheets, I will use it. The only thing now is that that sticker paper brand has text on the back of the sticker paper, which I know a lot of people do not like. When I first started using them, they didn't have it. There were a lot of customers leaving reviews saying they didn't know what side to print on, so they adjusted to have like some kind of line from the side to the middle to tell you which side was the front, which side was the back. And the people were not very happy about the line that they made on the back of the paper because it wasn't cutting well somehow with their sticker cutter. So finally they decided to put the text on the back, so that's how it is now. So I went through all those phases with Cricut. Now that I had finally figured out which brand of sticker paper I wanted, I had to figure out the second, third product. And I knew that these products had to be something that would not cost me nearly as much as just getting the sticker paper. Because the stickers were going to be my main product, I wanted them to be the highest quality as possible as I could afford. And then the other two products would still be the best possible quality I could give, but not as high quality as the sticker paper, if you know what I mean. For the stationery, I could just use my standard normal printing paper. I didn't need to buy more printing paper, and having printing paper is pretty much a norm. Mostly everyone uses it, whether it's for small business or just personal use. We already had it, so I didn't count that as a business expense because it was already there. And then the other thing was buying matte photo paper. Now Staples has a very budget friendly matte photo paper that you can get about 50 sheets, I believe, for 20-ish Canadian dollars. A little over 20-ish. With the sticker paper and the photo paper, in total I spent about $40. I had also just started being more serious with digital art. The fanciest gadget I had back then was my Vic A30 drawing tablet, and I bought that not too long ago, but it wasn't really for a business expense. It was because I truly just wanted to learn how to digital art better. So I didn't really count that as a small business expense, because back then, even though I didn't want to do digital art as a small business, it was still a hobby. I would only count the sticker paper and the photo paper as the expenses that I started out with. Now, when it comes to a printer, we already had our printer as well. Charles has been with me for years now, and Charles is my most loyal employee. If Charles doesn't work, then nothing functions in my small business. I'll put the type of printer that Charles is on the screen. My printer was only $90. It was on sale. I would highly suggest that if you don't already have a 5-ink cartridge printer, to get one. It doesn't have to be super expensive. As long as it's 5 inks, it's okay. Also, don't be afraid to use off-brand ink. I only use off-brand ink ever since the ink that came with it ran out. So it has been a couple years and I have never had a complaint. With Charles, I could buy multiple of each color ink for less than $30 on Amazon. Once you figure out your products, what is the next thing you have to figure out? You have to figure out where you're going to sell your items. There are places like Etsy, Shopify, and Big Cartel, which are some of the more popular places that people go to. You can make your own website if you want to. However, if you're just starting out, I am going to highly suggest Etsy, because Etsy will help drive traffic to you. I like this description of Etsy that I've heard another creator say before. Etsy is exactly like going to the mall. The mall has a bunch of different stores, and although you're not going to go to every single store, there's all these types of products that are available to you at one place. That's how Etsy is. So I knew from the get-go that I was going to use Etsy because I was already familiar with it. Also, I don't mind all the fees. So I believe that Etsy provides a lot of good services that, especially as a new business owner, that you don't have to worry about as much as you're still trying to learn how to do small business stuff. One of the things is submitting sales tax for you, which is amazing. When you're first starting off, you have no clue how that stuff works, but they take care of that for you. One of the best ways to know if you're ready to move off of Etsy is if you're getting really good and consistent sales. So if you're going somewhere that has a subscription, you need to be able to pay off that subscription also while making profit while paying the subscription. Now let's say it's been a couple of months and you've been hand cutting your items and you've been making a lot of consistent sales and you're doing really good with profit. What is it that you do next? You either decide to start getting your items manufactured, or you can start buying stuff to improve your small business and your life in general. So instead of hand cutting stickers now, you could probably look into getting a sticker cutting machine. There are so many brands out there, so make sure you take a look at what every brand offers. There's the brother cutting machines, there's sizers, and then there's also the Silhouette and the Cricuts, which is more popular amongst small business owners. It's very important that you research all the cutting machines and see if they work for you. Just because it works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And you're gonna probably hear me say that a lot throughout this video. Everything from now on is super extra research that you're gonna have to do. Just because someone says, hey, this manufacturer worked well for me, hey, I like this sticker cutter, hey, I like this brand of paper, doesn't mean that you're going to like it. Everyone's preference is different, so it's up to you to figure out what your preference is. I wanted so much to have a pink Cricut. It was my dream. Now, Cricuts are aesthetic. They're really beautiful. They come in different colors. They open very beautifully. And everyone that I was watching back then had a Cricut. It was like the most magical thing ever. However, upon further research, I found that it was not perfect for me. And I researched sticker cutters for 2 months before I finally decided to make the move to buy the sticker cutter. Now, the Silhouette machines back then, they're not as pretty and aesthetic as a Cricut. However, That didn't matter to me. All that mattered was the functionality of it and how it worked overall. The thing that ultimately made me choose a Silhouette machine over a Cricut machine was that everything that had to do with Silhouette machines would already be on your computer. You download the program onto your computer, and if somehow your Wi-Fi dies, your sticker cutter still functions and you can still use the program. Whereas with the Cricut, everything is online, and if your internet is messing up or if there's an update that they're doing, then you're at a standstill. You can't use your cutting machine. When it comes to Silhouette Studio, which is the program you use to make your cut lines and everything and your stickers and whatnot, I have never updated my software. It has been the same version ever since I started. I've never felt that I've needed to update it. During the time I got it up till now, there have been instances where an update has messed up a bunch of things for Silhouette users, but I never had that problem because I never bothered to update it, and it wasn't a forced update. You have to manually go to the website to update it. So my version has been the same ever since I started, and I don't have a problem, and I don't plan to update it because if it's not broken, I'm not going to try to fix it. Again, no matter what anyone says, when it comes to investing in something expensive, please do your research. Let's talk about manufacturers. One of the most popular manufacturers that people go to is Vograce. They are a manufacturer in China, and most manufacturers are in China. In China, they can basically make every single item that you could possibly think of. Vograce is one of the easiest and most approachable to go to when you're just starting out and you're just wanting to try to figure out how the manufacturing process works. Just know that of course it works differently for every single manufacturer. However, Vograce is just the most popular, most easiest to go to, because not only do they have an Alibaba website, but they also have their own website that's more easier to navigate. It's very important to note though that remember that the people you're talking to, most do have a decent amount of English. They're not going to understand every single thing that you're wanting to do with your product. So it's very important that you either have photos showing an example of what you want them to do, or use words that aren't really big. Use English words that aren't really big that still gets your point across. Eventually, when you've learned more about the manufacturing process, you can just go straight to Alibaba to find other manufacturers to work with. Now, Alibaba is very scary to kind of go through, and I'm not going to talk about it because I haven't gone through it myself before, but there are a lot of videos on YouTube that I have looked up before and watched that will give you a bunch of valuable and very useful information to help you navigate it, and that'll tell you what information to look for when you're looking for a certain manufacturer. There are also small businesses who offer these manufacturing services. For example, there are a lot of small businesses who offer sticker cutting services. There are also people who do buttons, and there's also people who do acrylic coasters, acrylic bookmarks, wooden coasters, and so on. And because there are also artists and also small businesses, they would take extra care, extra precautions to make sure that your product is as perfect as possible. The only thing about that though is just trying to find the small businesses that actually do it. Now, if you're someone who's interested in artist alleys, I want to suggest the Artist Alley Friends group. There are a lot of people in there who do artist alleys, and a lot of small business owners who provide extra services for other small business owners / artists. So you'll find people who do all the stuff that I just mentioned. There's certain terms that are super important that you need to know about. One of them is minimum order quantity, otherwise known as MOQ. MOQ basically means what is the least amount of a certain product you can make for a manufacturer to work with you. The MOQ will differ from manufacturer to manufacturer and product to product. So for example, if you're trying to make something huge, like plushies and eating bags and so on, something fancy, something super expensive, because those are super expensive, usually the MOQ of those are huge, more than 500, maybe even 1K. So you have to get 1,000 plushies or more for the manufacturer to work with you, because it has to be worth their time. they're taking all this time and this energy to make these plushies for you. However, just note that if you go through Alibaba, you can always negotiate MOQ and quotes, especially those products that are higher MOQ. Just take the time to work it out with the manufacturer. Another thing is a middleman. A middleman is someone who you contact, and this person contacts the manufacturer. So the interaction that would normally go between you and a manufacturer, everything is going between the middleman instead. And a lot of people like to do this with enamel pens. Enamel pens is only made in China. If you try to find a manufacturer in the States or Canada, there isn't one. They are a middleman. The technology to make enamel pens is not legal here in Canada and in the States because that's a way to counterfeit money. A lot of people decide to go through a middleman when they make enamel pens to relieve the stress. Also, a lot of people don't know all the steps and are not confident because, you know, there's the Pantone colors you have to worry about, how to set up the files and everything. And a lot of people just don't want to deal with the stress with the language issues as well. So that's why they go with the middleman. However, it's very, very important that you ask all the questions possible to your middleman. I have read an instance where someone worked with a middleman for their enamel pens and they weren't aware that the middleman was going to put their stamps on the back of their enamel pens, and that artist was not happy when they received their pens. You don't know what a back stamp is. It's basically something that's put on the back of your pen. Usually people put their branding on there so they know that this pen is made by making art. So make sure you ask every single question, read all the rules. If there's a contract, read it, every single thing, because it's your product. You have to ensure that your product is up to your standards, that everything goes the way you want. So you have to make the extra effort to ensure that all that happens. A question that I've been asked before is, how do you know which artwork to turn into what product? And the answer is, you don't know. Maybe when you first start, you like, of course, because stickers were my main product, of course it's going to be a sticker product, maybe a single die cut sticker or a sticker pack. But how do you know if an artwork is good enough to be an acrylic keychain, a lanyard design, or something else that a manufacturer may possibly have to create for you? One thing that may be helpful is if the sticker of a certain piece of artwork is doing well, maybe you might want to invest in a keychain. However, that doesn't guarantee that that product is going to do well. Just because there's people who like acrylic keychains doesn't mean there's people who's gonna like stickers, and vice versa. And everyone's budgets are different. So maybe someone wants to support you, but they can't afford to get the acrylic keychain, so they might get the sticker instead. Don't be afraid to make multiple different types of product out of one artwork. Unless you already have a big and loyal following who are buy whatever you put out, it's really hard to figure out which artwork and what type of product is going to do well. Not everything that I've had manufactured has done well. For example, my candy shaker charm, I've only sold one. The others have been in either grab bags, mystery bags, and all this other stuff, but I've only sold one. And then there's the rainy day lanyards, which I thought was a great design. I haven't sold a single one, and I made those sometime last year, the beginning of last year, I believe. Just know that even though you think a design is going to be amazing as a certain amount of product, just because you love it doesn't mean your audience is going to love it. I have had that happen many, many times. That's why nowadays, if I can, I try to get 2 different designs manufactured at the same time. For example, when I did my Astro in the Forest die cut sticker set, I decided to create the bee and bear keychain and the fox and snail keychain. Although they were artwork for the same set, they were 2 different designs. It gave me a chance to see which design would work well. And at that time, the reason why I chose those 2 designs over the other designs I had, one was because I mainly had Mustard Cun and Captain Froggle stuff, and I wanted to try branching out to other animals. So something new that I tried and hoped that it worked out, and thankfully it has. Those 2 keychains have been pretty popular, especially the Bear and Bee keychain, which was my personal favorite. There's going to be a lot of trial and error as a small business owner, and that's part of it. Personally, I have never made more than 50 of a single design. For some manufacturers, you can actually split up the design. So if you go with Vograce, for example, when you make acrylic keychains, if you want to make 100 keychains, you can split it between 4 designs and have 25 of 4 different designs instead of one with 100. You just have to see if the manufacturer does that. It differs from manufacturer to manufacturer. When I make acrylic keychains, I usually make 30 to 50 at a time and split them in half between 2 designs. That way I have an okay amount of each, and I know that I don't need more than that because I'm not at a point where my small business can sell very quickly 50 of one design. And even then, when I only have 25 or 15 of one product, those take me a while to sell as well. So I know that I don't want to have too many of one product and not too much inventory, especially if something doesn't sell well. So it's just a bunch of trial and error. You just have to give it a try and see how it goes. I've had a question about how I keep up with inventory, and the answer is I don't really keep up with inventory because, again, I don't make too many of one product at a time. Usually when I get the product, I'll prep it and package it to be ready to be sent when I get an order off of Etsy. I also make sure for the Etsy listing for the product that I don't put the amount of all the keychains. If I have 15 on one design, I'm going to put that I have 10 available. I want to keep those extra 5 in case something happens while stuff is being sent to the mail, because that could happen sometimes. And then I don't really count my inventory until I do in-person events. I like to take 10 of each type of product if I have it. So I'll make a note of that, and if I have less than 10, I'll just make a note of that as well. And I make sure that it matches with what I sold, because there are chances that things can get stolen when you do in-person events. That's just how it is, unfortunately. When I do in-person events, I will deactivate the listings on my Etsy shop because, again, I only have a limited amount of each product. I don't want to be selling the product and then not have the amount that I listed on Etsy. And once the event is over, I will check my inventory. I will make adjustments to how many I have left, and then I will reactivate the listing. You also have the option to put your Etsy shop on vacation, so it deactivate everything in your shop and have like this little notice that, oh, this shop is on vacation for now. But I have heard if you go on vacation and you come back and reactivate it and everything, it kind of messes up with your SEO and everything, and your listings might get harder to find on Etsy. I don't know for sure, but that's what I've heard. So now maybe at this point you might want to start doing in-person events. How do you find in-person events, and what should you be looking for when you're trying to find events to vend at? Again, I'm going to mention Artist Alley Friends. If you're someone who's very interested in Comic Cons and conventions, perfect group for that. Also, if you need help or questions related to that, these people will be more than willing to help you out. Now, it's very, very important to do your research. Don't do what I did. When I decided that I wanted to start doing in-person events, I was trying to find every single possible craft fair, art show, everything, anything in anywhere that I could vend at. But that was a horrible thing to decide to do, because your products might not match the market, might not match the convention or whatever. So you have to really take into consideration, will my artwork do well here? Not only that, it's super important to research the event. There are markets and conventions that have a great reputation, and then there are those who have a horrible reputation. Don't go vend at one just because there's an opportunity to do it. Do the research, see the history of the event. If you have a question, again, especially if it's conventions, Artist Alley Friends. If you know someone who has been at a certain event, you can ask them about the event. Just know that even though the target audience is perfect for your products, you might not make a profit, and that's just how it is. In some events, you're gonna do a lot better than other events. And some events, you might not even make the table feedback, and unfortunately, that's just how it is. Again, just a bunch of trial and error. You have to figure out where it works for you. Currently, I'm trying to find events outside of the conventions in Quebec that I could probably do, mostly those closer to Quebec City, because that's where I live. With anything related to small business, your products, research is always going to be a never-ending thing. Now, how do you find events to do? One of the things I would suggest, of course, is if you're watching someone or follow someone on social media that does these events and you find that they're doing an event that you're familiar with or close to where you could possibly go to, take note of the event, check the events page, follow them if it's an event that you like to do in the future. Another one is, of course, watching a bunch of Artist Alley vlogs, especially those related to conventions or markets close to where you live. See how the vibe is, see if it fits you, and so on. Also, there have been events that I have just kind of stumbled onto while scrolling through social media. For example, last year I came across WeCon simply from scrolling through TikTok, and I've never heard about it before. And it is a one-day convention that I could do, which I was really happy about. And I found the event just right before they did table registrations, and I was able to get a table for that event, and I was really excited to have another opportunity to vent. Also, in general, it's just fun to find new events in Quebec because we don't have that many events when it comes to anime conventions and Comic Cons in Canada in general. In the States, it feels like there's thousands of them, but here in Canada, we have not as many. So to find a new event was very exciting. Also, it's really important, if you can, to support the smaller conventions as well as the bigger conventions. That way the smaller conventions have a chance to grow and possibly be more than one day. So just always be on the lookout. You never know when you find a market or a con. Sometimes you just pop out of nowhere if you don't already know about it, and that's like one of the best things ever. Something I've been asked before is, what are your tips that some people don't mention when it comes to vending in person or at artist alleys? And it's kind of hard to think about the tips because I feel like a lot of people already say what needs to be said about tips and tricks and stuff with artist alleys. But here are a few that might not cross your mind. First and foremost, other than bringing your own water, food, and drink, also bring headache medicine because conventions and markets can get loud. There's loud music. You might be put beside a speaker and you can hear that speaker for 2-3 days or so on. So having headache medicine helps. Another thing is, if you're like me and you're someone who likes to stand up a lot, consider getting a rug that helps you when you're like standing up. I don't know the exact name of it, and I'll look it up right after this video, but that could be something that will make it more comfortable. Something that I like to use in my display that I feel like no one really mentions is using shelf liners. I bought mine from Dollarama. They are in the kitchen section and you can find them in standard colors: tan, black, white, and those basically keep your stuff from slipping around. I like to put that under my containers, especially for my buttons, and I also use that on the top of my grid cubes. It was perfect. It made me feel at ease to have it. I was fine with people picking up my cups and everything because I knew when they put the cup back, it would go back on the shelf liner and wouldn't slide anywhere. I was comfortable with people picking up stuff and putting stuff back in my containers, and when it comes to buttons as well, because I knew that my shelf liners would keep things in place. And other than that, I just want to remind you, like, this is something everyone probably says, please do a practice setup. You need to do a practice setup before you go to the event. You don't have a table big enough, measure your floor and do a mock setup there. You will thank yourself later. There's one other thing that I would suggest for the artist alley, especially if you're a print artist. If you can afford it, consider getting clear plastic bags with a handle on it. If someone buys from you and you put your stuff in that bag, that person basically becomes a walking advertisement for you. If someone spots this person carrying your artwork and they really want it, they're going to ask that person, hey, where did you get this art print? And then this person will be like, oh, I bought this from Making Art. And then they're going to go look for your booth. As a vendor, of course, it's very important to use your customer service skills. And if you've never had to work in customer service before, it's basically making sure that you acknowledge the people who come to your booth. It's important to know that everyone's personality is different. There are a bunch of people who are introverts, who are more soft-spoken. There are people who are very energetic and outgoing. So what I usually like to do is I would greet the person who's coming to our booth. I would just simply say hello. And depending on how the customer replies back is the energy that I would probably try to match when it comes to serving them or helping them. There are many times where people didn't say hello back, which is totally fine. Some people just want to look and browse and they're totally happy never ever being talked to and just be left alone. Well, there'll be others who will be super excited when they see your stuff and they want to talk about everything and all the fandom stuff, all the everything, anything related to what you have on your table, they want to talk about. They just love everything that you do. Now, that doesn't mean that I say hello to everyone. Sometimes I just let people browse and I'll just kind of watch them, and at the same time try not to watch them, because I don't think anyone likes people really staring at them when they're trying to buy something. But at the same time, when it's your booth and there's really nothing else to look at, like, you can't help but see what the people are looking at and browsing. So yeah, just try to find a middle ground between the two of those. I am a low energy introverted person, but when I do in-person events, I try to have a higher energy and be a little bit more outgoing, because I know that I'm gonna need to do that. And then after the event, like, I need so much time to rest and gather myself, because I have totally drained my social battery. My social battery is actually very low. Now, as someone who has been an attendee, something that I think is super important, and I've already mentioned, is to please take note of customers regardless of where they are at your table. There was one year I went to the Quebec City Comic Con. There was one certain item that I was looking for, and there was only one table that I found that had the perfect item that I wanted. This person had a corner table, and just having a corner table in general can help drive your sales, because people are always going to go around the corners, right? So they might not miss your table. You have more chances of being seen. So while I was at this corner table, I found the perfect item, the exact item I wanted, and I was so happy. And when I got there, the vendor was already having a conversation with someone else. They're very, very excited about a certain product the vendor had, and they were just having a fun time, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. When their conversation ended, I was going to speak up and ask for some help, but then out of nowhere, another person came by who is a lot more energetic, a lot more outgoing. Then they pretty much started the same conversation that the vendor had with the previous person, which again is totally fine. But at the same time, I was already ready to get help, and I had been waiting for a little bit already. But because I wasn't as energetic or outgoing as the person who just came, even though I've waited for several minutes already, I ended up having to wait again. And this time this conversation was a lot longer than the previous conversation, so I just patiently waited, because again, this vendor had a product that I really wanted. But of course it eventually ended, and again when I was about to ask for help again, another person came by, started the exact same conversation, just a different person, same conversation. And by the time the third person came by, the vendor did not look at me once. And I know that it's very important to give your attention to the people who are talking to you, but it made me feel like I was an invisible person. I've been waiting there for almost 10 minutes already. If they didn't have this product, I would have probably left halfway during the second conversation. There are going to be many people who probably goes to your table who is not as energetic, who might be more soft-spoken than others, that are going to have a harder time getting your attention. I'm a fairly patient person. I don't mind if you're having fun. It's okay to have fun, but at the same time, as someone who was an attendee, I was very upset over that. So it's very important as a vendor to make sure that you see everyone who's around you. It's very hard to steer your attention away sometimes from the person who's talking to you, but it doesn't take much to just take a quick glance around your table real quick to see if there's anyone there. The last thing I want to talk about is social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and so on. Of course, as a small business owner, one of the things you're gonna have to do is promote your business, your artwork, your products. And as much as we don't like it, social media is the fastest and best way right now to promote your goods. If you're someone who has been wanting to make long form content like studio vlogs, just know that you never have to show your face, you never have to talk if you do not want to. You can do ASMR type vlogs, you can do vlogs with music over it and you just have text all the time. People do all these types of vlogs all different ways and they do perfectly fine. Just find the way that you like to do it and go from there. When I first started doing studio vlogs, it was so cringe to see myself and hear myself talk. I've done it for years now, so I don't care. I've gotten used to it and I'm totally fine with it. Also, during the pandemic when everyone was working from home, I hated talking around my husband. I actually forced him to go to the bedroom so I could record for the vlog, because I did not want to get judged for the random stuff that I was going to say in the vlog. My husband, of course, didn't care, but it was just me overthinking and I just didn't want him to be there. When it comes to Instagram and TikTok and reels and shorts and stuff, I absolutely hate editing videos in the apps themselves. I don't know if editing videos in the apps gives you a better chance or not of being seen, but I always film my stuff on my phone. I transfer it to my computer and then I edit them on my computer. I transfer it back to my phone and I put it on social media wherever I want. Now that might sound like a lot of steps, but editing it in a video editor instead of the app, it's just a lot easier for me and I can control a lot more things compared to doing it in the app, and I just feel more comfortable with it. I use 2 different video editing softwares. I use the current version of DaVinci Resolve 18 and I also use Shotcut. When I started doing studio vlogs, I started off using DaVinci Resolve, but then it was too strong for my computer. My computer didn't have the right parts and I needed to upgrade it so it'd be strong enough to render the videos and everything. So every time I would try to render videos, there would be parts that would get messed up. So I had to switch and learn Shotcut. So Shotcut's interface is a lot easier to navigate. It wasn't as overwhelming as DaVinci's, and it didn't take as much power to render videos and edit stuff. Nowadays I only use Shotcut to edit reels and stuff, and then DaVinci for editing my studio vlogs. I use DaVinci Resolve because it's free, and the free version is more than enough to get you started. It has so many things. If you feel like the overlay is too overwhelming, because there's a lot of stuff on there, Shotcut is more straightforward and probably maybe easier, but it's an upgrade from your standard Windows editor. Let's talk about music. Now, getting music for your vlogs can be very tricky. I used to use a website called Hello Thematic, and Hello Thematic used to allow you to download all these songs that you could use. Songs have been submitted by people who make the music and have allowed them to be used in vlogs or other content. That's the point of Hello Thematic. Nowadays they have a point system, so it's harder to actually download music because you have to earn the points to do it. However, if you do want to look into it and try it out for yourself, you can earn points from rating songs and doing all these other tasks that they have. The thing that I did like about Hello Thematic though is that if you get a copyright strike from using the music from their website, and if you did everything you were supposed to do, most of the time just making sure you add the link to the music onto your description, then the support on Hello Thematic could easily resolve those copyright issues for you. There have been a couple of times where I got copyright strikes from using those songs, but every single time I've just gone to Hello Thematic support and they have resolved it for me with no problem. Now, there's also other places that I've never tried before that you could pay a subscription for to use the music. Like a very popular one that I hear about all the time is Epidemic Sound. I've never used it before, so I can't vouch for it, but all I know is that it's a subscription base, so if that's something you look for. YouTube does have a library of free music. If you want to be like super careful, just go through them, search up what you can, but it's also a very limited amount. There are a few that are perfect and great for vlogs, but you might just want something different. Nowadays, what I do for music is I personally like lo-fi music. So I would actually search lo-fi music on YouTube, and then I would look at YouTube channels that offer it. I would go to their descriptions and see if they have a website or something where I can actually purchase their music. There are actually a lot of channels out there that offer free music. Now you might have to do something like subscribe or something to their Spotify or follow their Spotify. I don't have Spotify, so I don't know it's follow or subscribe. I don't know, sorry. It's free as long as you do certain things. It's not something too much like just following them on Spotify or something like that. Like, it's different for every person. There's also others out there who make music and have a Ko-fi who offer the music for free as long as you put their information in your description box. So you just have to find those people. Usually when you get the free copies, there might be an option to give a donation if you want to, or you can even buy full albums instead of downloading the individual free songs. If you can, I would always highly suggest trying to support the person making the music. That way they can make more in the future. However, I know that not everyone can do that, but just know that there are other free options other than the YouTube library and Hellodomatic. You can't afford a subscription. There are ways, you just have to look for it. Also, I would ask about my top editing tips. I don't have a very fancy editing style or anything. I highly suggest that you learn what color grading is and learn how to adjust brightness and contrast to your video. It's gonna be kind of different from video editor, but at the very least, I feel like that's the most basic thing you should learn. Have you seen those cozy and aesthetic videos where people's videos are like maybe a little pink, a little purple, a little bluish, brownish color? They do that through color grading. If you're just starting off, you should at least figure that stuff out. It will help you a lot. Also, figure out how to blur things in your video, because as a small business owner, sometimes when you're putting a label on a package, in the video you might be able to see the address, but then in the video editor you can blur it. So please learn that as well, because that's super important in certain cases. Also, when it comes to making content, just remember that you don't have to share every single step and every single thing related to your small business if you don't want to. Share as much and as little as you want, and if you feel more comfortable and if you want to, you could share some stuff that you're doing in your life that might not be related to your small business. I know that a lot of people like watching what other people do outside of their small business. They do in their real life, go into the cafe, go into the store, whatever, but you definitely don't have to share that if you don't want to. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that it was somewhat helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!